Your transgressions are mine as well.
Hello. Welcome to the Christchurch Fox Chapel podcast.
But I'll find comfort in company.
Well, it's the fastest growing conservative, evangelical, charismatic,
reconstructive
podcast in the entire Fox Chapel
We're
area.
having an all-night revival.
Revival, Ben!
revival.
Some call the women and someone steal the Bible. For the sake of my survival.
It's going to fade out the slightly dubious bit and no one will complain. There we go. Jobs are good.
No. It's clearly the kind of all-night revival that Zach Bryan is talking about there has nothing to do with alcohol. It's the purest kind of revival that, like what we're talking about.
I think he's speaking symbolically, but the symbolism is sometimes lost on all but the most discerning listener, such as, for example, Mr. Jake, whom we met the other night.
Hey, this is a shout out to Jake, who lives in Rochester, New York, and is a friend of Will Shiner, who just was married to the beautiful Isabel Izzy. And he came up to us, and this was the first moment in my life, I think, where I ever felt famous.
Yeah, and it was welcome because just a couple of moments earlier, I like the preacher's nightmare. Like we're in the middle of this deep conversation, and there's a guy shouting on the microphone, like the DJ or whatever.
Like,
and you hit that.
Alex Shuttleworth.
What?
And he's like,
what is Alex? What's happening?
Yeah, my favorite was when you prayed, and then
closed.
afterwards you had your eyes closed, and then he wasn't there, and so and then
Well, I opened my eyes.
I hear. It's still me. Hello? In exactly that voice in front of this entire wedding party.
I prayed this prayer. And I wasn't really that super prepared. So it was like kind of like default prayer.
It was the most off guard I've ever seen you.
I was deep in the middle of a really good conversation. And all I heard was Alex Shuttleworth. And he was miles away. So I had to walk through this whole room in silence to get to the front.
Oh, it was so
Prayed
funny.
prayer. Open my eyes. The guy had completely left the chat. He couldn't be seen anywhere. The spotlight's all on me. I couldn't see anything, and the guy's disappeared. So I tried to hand the microphone back, and no hand came out of the darkness.
Yeah.
I just did a couple of routines. You don't want dead air, do you?
And then inexplicably, they brought you only vegetarian dishes the entire night.
That's terrible.
Everyone else at the table had meat and normal things.
I had a mushroom covered in dust.
Yeah. And then to cap it off the night, Jenna and I had to leave early, and they had just uncovered the cookie table at this thing. And so I go by, and the photographer is right there taking... No, actually, I think it was the father of the bride.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, he's like, I need to take some pictures of this. And meanwhile, I look like Gollum. I'm just snatching cookies into my thing. And then he kind of, I don't know if he yelled at me, but I just kind of like grunted.
He was not happy that you desecrated the cookie table.
Yeah. And then I just kind of ran away. And that was the end of my time at that wedding reception. So
if it hadn't been for Jake, it would have been a bad night for Christchurch Fox Chapel.
Yeah,
so.
but here's to Jake. Maybe he'll listen to this. Yeah.
I'd love to know what he thought of the prayer. So we're in Ezra chapter 3. Ben, I think you did a marvellous job of the donkey passage last week.
Thank you. That's all owing to Bill Yorkshire.
With his donkey research.
Well, he did a lot of 10,000 the miners of silver or of gold and stuff like that.
Yeah,
He
I noticed
calculated
that
it out.
your podcast estimate of the value and your sermon estimate differed slightly.
Yeah.
But
That's because I had a real detail-oriented mathematician come in.
well, scholars differ on these matters.
Yeah.
So we've gone from the big picture of where we are, what scholars sometimes call the Sitzim-Leben, and so the situation in living. Where are they? Well, they've entered the promised land. They've lived under the judges for 300 years. They've lived as a united kingdom under Saul and Solomon, David and Solomon. The kingdom is divided in two: Israel in the north, Judah in the south. Israel has been taken away up north into Assyrian exile. Poof, click and drag, pipe wrench, gone. No idea where they are. Judah down south lasts another 150 years. They have kings who are good and bad, 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 bad. And eventually they're taken away into Babylonian exile. Babylon falls to Persia. Persia takes over. Cyrus has this policy of sending people home. And Spirit stirs his heart and he sends them home.
Sends them home. Yeah. All the while the people are just in exile for this like 70 years. Mm-hmm. And now they have this state-sponsored migration back to Jerusalem.
Which you dealt with extensively last week in the donkey passage.
The donkeys. Yeah. I talked considerably less about donkeys than I wanted to, but
yeah, I was disappointed.
I apologize for that. And so now they've made it, they kind of skipped the journey. In this, they sort of detail
it's like the opposite of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
it's all journey. So, you drew out two fascinating things, which we might call an immediate and an ultimate thing of significance.
Yeah,
right. And so the immediate thing you drew out last week was that God had preserved the Levites, the priests, and the temple workers, who are the specific group of people required under the law to manage the temple.
Right.
And then you said, and God preserves a man called Zerubbabel. And he's significant too, because he's a descendant of David.
Yeah.
And therefore, the promise to David that you will have a king on the throne forever is still alive.
Yeah.
And that's a messianic promise. That's a promise of Jesus.
Yeah.
So there's this immediate thing. Okay, you can go back, you can build your temple, you're going to be okay, you're going to be in relationship with me again. There's this ultimate thing, the hope of the Messiah is still alive.
And it's the same thing, like all the God's people throughout history, none of them saw the fullness of what God was doing. So I think at the end of all days, we will all get to look back and just marvel at who God is and what he's done in history. There will be tales to be told.
I can't wait to see, because we get glimpses here in Scripture of God's sovereign hand. Yeah. So in week 1, for example, we saw that Isaiah and Jeremiah had prophesied that you'd be away for 70 years. Mm-hmm. And they were. They really were. Because they were restored either 70 years from the day of the first wave went into exile, or the period of time from the collapse of the temple to its rebuilding is 70 years. So that's a very specific thing that they're told. Yeah, and it happens.
It depends how you mark the time, but in either way,
it works. And 70 is not insignificant. 7 is a holy number. Yeah. 10 is a complete number. So there's something highly symbolic about the time they're away. So we're seeing this idea of God's sovereign hand being over all these things.
Yeah.
Even down to the fact last week that the enemies of God finance and bankroll the return.
With no small amount of cash. What was it, like $77 million or something like that?
Yeah, and that's right. An enormous amount of money given to them to rebuild. And there's more of that happening right now, because we're in chapter 3, verse 1, and we begin with this phrase, when the 7th month came.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, well, we've already established that 7 is a significant number in the story of God, right? So is this just an idle thing? It happened to happen that month, or is there some symbolism here?
70 years, 7th month.
Well, in Jewish history, the 7th month is a significant month. So it begins under the law of Moses in Numbers and Leviticus. The 7th month begins with this Feast of the Trumpet. There's a trumpet blast.
Do we know which month of our year this is?
Well, I'm getting sort of September into October.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know that it perfectly corresponds, but it's basically the end of the summer.
I heard a similar thing, yeah.
Okay. So the first day of their 7th month, which doesn't quite correspond to our months, but it overlaps, begins with this trumpet blast, and there's a kind of solemn declaration. And it culminates in this Feast of Booths. So there's a Day of Atonement, which is another solemn day on the 10th day. So now we've got a 7 and a 10. But on the 15th day, there is this Feast of Booths. And if you've watched The Chosen, they do a really nice job of this. The Feast of Booths is a 7 or 8 day festival. So it's a feast. It's not a fast. It's a feast.
It's a camp out feast.
And it's a camp out.
Yeah.
So
sounds fun.
So they all go and live in tents, even if they have perfectly good homes.
Yeah.
For a week.
I love that.
And the Feast of Booths reminds them that when they fled from Egypt and headed towards the Promised Land, they had to live out and about in tents.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder of God rescuing them, a reminder of heading towards the Promised Land. It's a reminder of God's provision in the wilderness.
Yeah.
All of these things. And it's very physical. right? I mean, to live in a different place for an entire week is going to remind you of what God's done for you before.
Yeah, you're really gonna embody it. You're kind of reenacting a little bit and replaying the history, which is really the point of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So they're in the middle of this festival in the 7th month.
Well, that's right. So chapter 3 begins with the 7th month, and if you're a reader of Jewish history, the number 7 is making you go, "Ooh, okay, interesting."
Yeah.
The fact that it's the end of the summer, that's making you go, "Ooh, okay, interesting," because that's harvest time. This is when there's plenty of food, and you've done all your work. And then, of course, cultically, within the feasts and festivals and solemn assemblies, you've got the trumpet blast, you've got the Day of Atonement, you've got the Feast of Booths, and that 7-day Feast of Booths, there's that 7 again. Another week, a holy week, a week of Sabbaths.
That's a lot of, yeah.
It culminates the eighth day is a day, a really solemn day of extra Sabbath. Now, God warns them in Leviticus and Numbers. If you mess with this stuff, if you don't do it, you're out. Okay, you're going to take yourself out of my covenant blessing, and you're going to suffer covenant curses if you mess with this stuff. You've got to take this really seriously.
He's given them instruction on how to do it,
how
to worship him. Yeah.
So that's all bubbling along in the background.
Yeah.
And we pick up the story with their return to Jerusalem. I don't know if this is like the very first day or whatever, because in the passage before, it does say they lived in their towns.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they've literally just put their suitcases down, but it does read as though it's fairly early on, perhaps the first opportunity to have a 7th month.
Yeah. Yeah.
There isn't a harvest because they haven't got any farms yet. So,
interesting.
There's no reference to any trumpet day. There's no reference to any Day of Atonement.
But
so
they still do it though. They still get together.
It feels like their first opportunity for any kind of high holy event is this one.
I think it's interesting that this is not done from a place of like abundance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have all this. They don't have border security on all sides. They don't have ease. The work is not done, but they still pause. So
you've literally returned to a ruined town.
Yeah.
Right. With no walls.
And you're like, let's have a celebration.
Let's have a Sabbath.
Yeah.
Let's down tools for 8 days.
Yeah.
And eat like pigs. Well, horses perhaps. Donkeys.
Eat like donkeys and eat like mules.
eat like mules. Yeah, that's right.
Eat like a mule. And so let's see. They gather. It says, I love this, as one man to
Unity.
Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is like the center point of all these towns that these people are from.
Yes.
And so they're all kind of like on the outskirts, maybe a day's walk from Jerusalem, but they all come to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Verse 2, then arose Jeshua, the son of Yozadak, and his fellow priests, and Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel.
So we've got the Levitical priests and we've got the Davidic king.
Yeah.
You've got the temple people and you've got the palace people.
Yeah.
Even though there's no temple and no palace.
Yeah. So Zerubbabel is in God's providence, he's both the governor, appointed by the Persians.
Yes.
And he's the Davidic heir.
Yes. He's not on its face given this position because he happens to be a direct descendant of David.
I wonder if the Persians recognized something of his descent.
Maybe.
And appointed him
We're not told. Yeah. But he's got a Babylonian name. His name is literally Zerubbabel. So
yeah,
he has been kept alive through this exile, as have the Levitical priests. And they've got no walls, no farms, no nothing. And the first thing they do is have an 8-day Sabbath.
Yeah.
The first 7 days of which, being a perfect number, are an absolutely belly-stuffing feast.
Well, the first thing they do is build an altar, right?
Yes. Okay. So this is also important.
Go ahead.
Well, these high holy days and special feasts like the Feast of Booths, they weren't just an opportunity to go on the lash and have a big old food festival. There was a highly holy element to the 7th month that was focused upon sacrificial offerings and burnt offerings and Sabbath rest. that was often quite solemn. So you'll read in these things, on the 8th day there should be a solemn assembly,
Yeah,
a convocation, a solemn convocation. And so there were definitely times of great joy, but it was to culminate in a moment of great sobriety and seriousness that would involve and necessitate making of sacrificial offerings to the Lord.
I think that it's really true. I've experienced this, that there's a difference between feasting and celebrating and just kind of like self-indulgent
There is a difference.
living.
Yeah.
And the two there's a distinct kind of separateness of those.
It might be the difference between Thanksgiving and Christmas Day in the kind of American way.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
So
in the sense that
true.
a lot of people will say to you, like, oh, Christmas feels a bit sort of, you know, doesn't feel as fulfilling as Thanksgiving sometimes.
Yeah. I feel that way.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just excess, because it's highly stipulated about how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And so obviously, returning to the ruins of Jerusalem, they can't just set fire to some carcass on the floor. They need an altar. And so it says in verse 3, they set the altar in its place. Many scholars believe in the same place that it used to be before, the correct place, where it ought to be.
Yeah. And I read this too, that Solomon would have built the altar on the same place where David had built an altar before in Jerusalem.
Right.
So there was an altar before the temple, and then there was the temple, and the temple gets knocked down. And then what do they do? In the same place again, they build an altar.
So this is what we would call revival.
Yeah.
It is the rebuilding of the right thing in the right place with the right people.
Yeah.
They're doing it right.
They're doing it right
At last.
So they're having this feast, and I just think it's interesting that they say, well, the author says, so they built the altar to offer the burnt offerings as written in the law of Moses, the man of God.
Yeah.
Then they set the altar in its place, for fear was on them because of the peoples of the lands, and they offered burnt offerings on it to the Lord.
Yes.
So isn't that interesting logic?
We're given a reason.
We're afraid, therefore we worship God.
Because we're afraid, we're worshipping God.
Yeah.
They've learned a lesson.
Yeah.
I think they've learned a valuable lesson. God had told them, if you get this stuff wrong, you're doomed, you're out. And they got it wrong and they were out.
Yeah.
But he in his grace preserved them and brought them back,
Yeah.
and left with them and brought them back. We know that because Zerubbabel made it, and that's Jesus' granddad.
And they've been brought to their knees in a lot of ways, and they finally it seems like they finally have learned the lesson of Sabbath.
It looks like that, doesn't it? It looks like they've learned the lesson of Sabbath and prioritizing God and putting him first. Of course, they've just had this important week of remembering that God had saved them from Egypt, and surely their return, albeit in the opposite direction, through the desert from Persia or Babylon back to Jerusalem, must have been reminiscent for them of the same caravan that left Egypt and went to Jerusalem. So it's all highly evocative of many high points in the big story of God.
Yeah.
But they're afraid because when they return, it's not like the land is just completely empty. There are people there now.
The locals are not happy about this, I got to imagine.
No, I mean, 50,000 people have showed up on our doorstep who are highly devoted to Yahweh. And you're there with some kind of syncretic religion, or maybe you just worship Baal or what have you.
Yeah.
You've been farming this land, and maybe it's a bit of a dump, but you've been making a living here.
Yeah.
And 50,000 people have shown up in what you think is your backyard.
You've been squatting.
And you are not happy. And there's rumblings. The historical enemies are still around. They're still gathering around. The storm clouds are still gathering.
Yeah. Wasn't there a house in Fox Chapel that somehow there was some person who thought it belonged to them, and they eventually had to get like a restraining order because it was like this person kept coming around and creeping on. This
is a really great illustration. So there's you're right, I'd forgotten about this. There's a house in the dip just near the church, and it's occupied now. But what happened was this guy got out of Allegheny jail and he just moved into it. It was an empty house. And he claimed that he was a sovereign citizen, and therefore the laws of the United States don't apply to him, and that it was his. And the police got wind of this and they came in and they like confiscated a load of weird telescopes that were pointing at someone's house and a load of firearms.
Oh.
And the dude went round to the police station, it's not the sharpest tool in the box, to complain that he'd been robbed. People had broken into his house and stolen his firearms. It was in fact the police who'd taken his firearms. They confiscated him because he was a felon. And so he was claiming it was his. He was squatting there.
He was squatting there.
And it wasn't his.
Huh. Yeah, it's like that.
A
right?
squatter.
They're gone for 70 years and the squatters have come in. And so now they're scared.
But what's amazing is, in fear, they're not doing what they did just before the exile. They were afraid before the exile, and they turned to schemes and occult practices.
Yeah.
They worshipped Baal. They sacrificed children to the gods of the neighboring lands. They made political alliances with the evil superpowers of the day. They did anything they could do except for trusting Yahweh.
It was a manipulation of the divine. I mean, that's what Solomon's real sin is, right? We often say like Solomon was full of lust because he had all those wives.
Not Solomon from our youth group.
No, not Solomon from our youth group. The king. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't. It's not lust that caused him to have all these wives. These were political alliances.
Yes.
He was taking power into his own hands. He was trying to control things instead of trusting God.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is the perpetual sin of
Us. It's us, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we have to give them credit. They get it right here. They get it right. They get the right people, the Levites and the king, in the right place, which is where the altar should be. And the first thing they do is they build an altar because we're afraid we're going to worship. That's basically what they think.
Love that.
And what they don't do is build defenses. They don't say, because we're afraid, we're going to dig some trenches.
No, the building of the fences comes even after the building of the temple.
This is the next book, Nehemiah, right?
Yeah, but the temple gets built in the book of Ezra.
Right.
So they start from the inside out.
Right. So this is also another thing, isn't it?
That'll preach.
It will preach. It will preach. That'll preach. If you were building a building, you wouldn't. The first thing you bought wouldn't be the microphone or the acoustic panel or the chair, right?
Yeah.
You buy those things last. The first thing you do is you start putting up a frame.
You don't start with your tables.
You have a foundation. You have a frame. You have a roof.
Got to make sure you keep the bad things out.
They start with the altar.
Yeah.
Even though it's just surrounded by dust and thistles.
Yeah.
They start with the altar, which is just amazing. Imagine them gathering around this altar in the historical location, but the court is gone and the roof is gone, the cedars and the columns and the basins and the bowls and everything is gone. And the palace is gone and the city is gone and the farms have gone and the walls have gone. Mm-hmm. And you're afraid because you're basically just naked in some dust bowl. And you're like, I know what we should do. Let's take 7 days off, call it 8, right? We'll eat everything we've got. We'll do no work at all, right? And then what we'll do is we'll build a stone altar in just an empty, charred place, blackened sort of place. And then we'll kill some more stuff.
I'm pretty sure Aesop's fables recommend like the exact opposite of this sort of behavior.
It's the stupidest thing you could do,
right?
according to the wisdom of the world.
Yeah. It's like, it's crazy. But this is how God is. I mean, this is the thing about the Bible. God has revealed himself and he said what to do. So they're doing what he says to do.
Morning and evening, the offer of burnt offerings. Verse 4, they kept the Feast of Booths as it's written. So they're now keeping the law.
Yeah.
They offered the daily burnt offerings by number according to the rules. So they're doing it by the book as each day required according to the book. And after the regular burnt offerings, the offerings at the new moon and all the appointed feasts of the Lord and the offerings of everyone who made a freewill offering. So now they're giving above and beyond what was required. Mm-hmm. And they did this from the first day of the 7th month. They began to offer burnt offerings. I think that's trumpet day. But it says, the foundation of the temple of the Lord was not yet laid. It's so backwards by human wisdom.
Yeah.
And so forwards by God's wisdom.
Start with the relationship. And then the structure will be built.
Right.
That's actually good church. That's good spiritual advice. That's good church planting advice. That's good. All that stuff.
Yeah, because I think our tendency is to do the opposite, say when and then. Okay. When I've paid off this loan, then I'll start giving to church. When I've got this promotion, then I'll start giving to church. When I've retired, then I'll start serving in the church.
Yeah.
When I've got married, then we'll host a home group. And we're always tending to do that. We'll say, well, look, it's not the right time right now. I'm not ready right now. And I committed to the idea in principle, but it's not time for me. Not right now. It's the wrong time.
Yeah.
And when I've got everything in place, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they say, no, we've been there, done that. We've learned a lesson. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to build the altar first because we're afraid. And if we trust in God, we will not need to be afraid anymore. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do they do? Verse 7.
They gave money to the masons and the carpenters.
Let's give our money away as well.
And food, drink, and oil to the Sidonians and the Tyrians to bring cedar trees from Lebanon to the sea. They're buying a temple.
I mean, after all, right, we don't have any farms, and we don't have any homes, and we don't have any economy. We don't have any marketplaces. We don't have any ability to process wool. We don't have any weavers set up. We don't have any fletchers set up. We don't have a standing army. We don't have any leather workers. We don't have any shields. We don't have any military technology or economic technology or commerce running at all whatsoever, let alone agricultural means of production. We haven't got any of that.
All we got is a big, giant pile of gold. And so they send out, so let's buy a temple.
So let's give away all of our money and our food and our drink and our oil and all of our most precious stuff to some people quite far away. And hopefully what they'll bring us is some elaborate beams that we can use to construct a house.
Well, I mean, a life is built around the worship of God. And this is the principle, I think, that God lays down, is that when you start with the relationship with him, with the vertical, all the horizontal stuff susses itself out. And so we often think that we have to build it upon a self-sustaining platform, but there is no self-sustaining platform. It's always
no such thing.
It's always the vertical relationship with him. So that's what they're doing. And so it is in I think it's a good takeaway for the way that we think about our life. If our relationships are all messed up, it might be the case that our relationship with God is messed up. And if our relationship with God is right and we enjoy fellowship with him, it's going to work its way out into our other relationships too. It's just how life works. So start with the most important thing. I mean, start with the relationship in which, if all your relationships are dysfunctional, start with the one relationship in which you know the other person is not dysfunctional.
Brilliant.
That would be God.
And then the other stuff will start to work out.
Yeah. And then you'll become less dysfunctional.
And isn't it amazing when you're actually doing that, when you're actually building your life upon God, you are doing something that is often counterintuitive to human logic. Because no society then or now would begin this way. No society would come back to a ruined place and say, let's start with a holiday, or let's build an inside thing first before we even have a building, or let's, because we're afraid of our enemies, go and live in a tent. I mean, if you're afraid of being invaded or whatever, the last thing you do is sleep in a tent.
Why would you think, why would anyone think it's a good idea to give away a minimum of 1/10 of all of your stuff of your income every year?
Well,
that's crazy.
And the sense here with these people is that they're giving away
even more,
substantially more than that, out of free will. Yeah, because they want to, because they've learned that trusting Yahweh is actually the way of success. And maybe they've learned God's faithful to his own, God's sovereign over his enemies, and therefore revival is only ever a generation away. This will revive the people of God. This won't just deal with the problem of fear. This will bring revival.
Yeah. And everything, all the good stuff flows out of that.
It does. It all comes from this. Zerubbabel is there, the Israelites are there, the Levites are there. They're keeping these meticulous rules. It's counterintuitive. And in the midst of their fear, this time, the first thing they do is the right thing.
So how does this connect us to the cross?
Well, there's a number of ways, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Zerubbabel is the first and most obvious thing.
Yeah.
That he is Jesus. And the Levites are the second most obvious thing. They present sacrifices to God.
Huh. Yeah.
The altar is a place where sacrifices are made to atone. That happens on day 10 of the 7th month in particular. This is the place where you go to atone for sin.
So the most dangerous thing to you is first and foremost your own guilt before God, because God can protect you or not protect you. It's based on his providence. So the first thing you need to deal with, even when there are external issues and threats, is your relationship with God. You need dealing with your own guilt.
We are our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
We present, our own sinful hearts present an infinitely greater threat to us than any external force whatsoever.
It's like when Jesus is, the paralytic gets brought to him in Mark 2, and he says, your sins are forgiven.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you forgiving his sins? We want you to heal him.
Right. I think what you see with Christ as well is that when he dies on the cross, it just looks like a failure. Right. Mm-hmm. And he's describing himself as a temple. Jesus says, look, if you knock down this temple, I'll raise it in 3 days.
Yeah.
Right. So he's describing himself as the temple. Here he is exposed as a sacrifice. As a great high priest doing a great high priestly atoning sacrifice in front of everybody, which should be happening behind a curtain. He's doing it in plain view, very much like the sacrifice is taking place on this altar right here. And then what happens is slowly they start to realize, we actually already have a temple. Huh. We have a temple. I mean, it doesn't have any foundations yet or cedar, but we have a temple because we put this altar in the right place and it worked. And I think that's where we start to see Jesus. The people around the cross don't really get it at the time, but it dawns on them pretty quickly afterwards. Oh, that was a temple.
The temple's where the sacrifice is.
Right. It's not the building.
Yeah. I think, we see Christ all over this.
Yeah, we do.
And in God's faithfulness to his people and the need for atonement, and in the Sabbath rest. So I think Ezra 3. Thank you, Alex. A tour de force.
I don't know if it was.
I say it was.
But I do have a nice fishing song here.
Some call the women and some will steal Bibles for the sake of my survival.
Well, this has been a podcast of Christchurch Fox Chapel. We're so glad that you would join us. Of course, I'm just talking because I don't really like that particular lyric.
Yeah. We like the idea of all-night revivals, though.
Thanks for stopping by.
Stay classy.
Gather around this table, boys. Bring your shame, I'll lose my voice. Screaming at the gods about the bad we've done. Merle said, Mama tried, but the prison still won.